What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Alolan DataDex with me, TheOneIntegral. Last episode we covered Alolan Marowak, and the choice you were given for this episode was between Mimikyu and Togedemaru, and really no surprise, Mimikyu won. So that's who we'll be covering today. But for next episode we have another vote of two sort of little lonely Pokemon. I describe them as. We have Mimikyu and we also have Bruxish. So two water types, two, no evolution partners, relatives, whatever, all on their own. So we're going to offer you the chance to see one of them covered next week. So whichever you'd like to see covered, comment down below, either Mimikyu or Bruxish, or however else you say that damn name. So let's jump in and have a look at Mimikyu, of course. It's number 778 in the National Pokédex, and is a Ghost Fairy type, as well as being the Disguise Pokemon. It's only 8 inches or 0.2 meters tall, and I'm assuming that's the actual thing under the cloth, although I can't be sure, and weighs only 1.5 pounds or 0.7 kilograms, so pretty light as well. It's in the amorphous egg group, and the male-female split is a simple 50-50. Evolution-wise, doesn't evolve from it into anything, obviously, because it's Mimikyu on its own, so it's sort of Pikachu clone. Then, looking at the base stats for, of course, Mimikyu, you can see its highest base stat is actually special defense at 105, then attack at 90, as well as also speed at 96, let's not forget that, and defense at 80, health points at 55, and special attack at 50. So obviously, physical attacker, pretty good defensively, especially because of the ability, which we'll make a segue into now, which is Disguise, which basically gives it a free focus sash, I suppose. Once per battle, the shroud that covers the Pokemon can protect it from an attack. So you can switch in, you can, for example, Swords Dance, and you get it for free, because even if they hit you with their most powerful move, you take it easily. Now, of course, there are some exceptions to this, but generally it's pretty good how it works. Of course, remember, it is once per battle, so you can't really, go in, Shadow Sneak, switch out, go in, Shadow Sneak, switch out over and over, because it's once per battle, not once per in the battle, I suppose. You guys know what I mean. So that's Mimikyu's general information. Looking at its typing, being Ghost Fairy is actually pretty good. Oh, I say pretty good. I guess it's pretty good. It's got only one resistance, which is Bug, but it is a 4 times resistance, so it only takes quarter damage from it. 2 weaknesses, which are Ghost and Steel, but 3 immunities, which is pretty good, with normal fighting and dragon. So not a hugely amazing typing, but 3 immunities, pretty good, as well as that extra, 1 turn free, whatever, get out of jail free card with its ability there. So I'd say it's pretty good ability. Ghost and Fairy also pretty good offensive typings. Fairy allowing to hit dragons really quite hard, as well as fighting as well. So generally pretty good, decent, I'd say. So what sorts of moves might you want to use with your Mimikyu? Well, first up we have Shadow Sneak at level 14, yes, so level up moves first up. Level 14, Shadow Sneak is obviously a priority move, so you get stab on it, that's pretty good. And obviously, if you have Shadow Sneak, you can get 1 free turn with your Disguise, and then next turn you can use Shadow Sneak, so you get 2 moves in, definitely, for free. So you can Swords Dance and Shadow Sneak, and no one can do anything about it, basically. Another option for your Ghost type stab is a Shadow Claw, and that's learned at level 37, so more power but no priority, so it depends on what you're going for, really. And then a couple of other moves left up. We have first level 46 Play Rough, which of course is your Fairy type stab you want to be running, if you're running a Fairy type stab, that is. 90 base power, only 90% accuracy, but still pretty powerful, and will allow you to hit anything, most things really, quite hard. Then one final level move is Pain Split at level 50. Of course, this is a method that Mimikyu can use to heal itself. Pain Split obviously shares the pain, so if they are on very high health and you're on very low health, then you can share the pain and you get high health. You get higher health, and they get lower health. So then TMs are some more moves here. The first is TM28 Leech Life. For some reason it gets access to this. I guess it has fangs under that cloth, who knows. But Leech Life, very good. Another health and restoration move you can run if, of course, you're going for that route. But definitely good coverage as well, especially with the higher base power. TM42 Facade is next, which is a weird one. Because it's Facade, it's not really like you want to use it too much, but it can be used for 70 base damage, and of course if you're burned, paralysed, poisoned, it doubles in power. Basically the reason you want to run this move is in case you get burnt, Facade cancels out the burning effect, so you still get a base 70 power move for some decent damage, I suppose, rather than having Play Rough, which is half to 45, and then boosted slightly by your stat, of course, to maybe like 60, which is still less than Facade, and also Shadow Claw is a similar sort of situation there, so it's basically an insurance policy in case you get burnt, which is a thing you might want to be doing, because obviously they can't hit you the first turn, or they can't take you out in one turn, so they might say, well, I'm going to burn you instead and nullify you, and of course Facade will allow you to get around that basically. Then we have TM61 Will-O-Wisp, so of course you might want to burn things in response to. You can take their first attack with Disguise, then you can burn them if they're physical, and obviously they'll do even less damage next turn, so it's definitely an option there. TM75 Swords Dance is a move I've mentioned already, definitely combined with Disguise is a pretty good setup, free Swords Dance basically, then you can go with Shadow Sneak if you're fast enough, or anything else to do a lot of damage. One final move is TM90 Substitute, which can be used fairly well, I suppose, with Disguise of course, with Substitute and Disguise sort of stacking up. You can sub on the first turn, your Disguise, Substitute protects you and your Disguise stays intact sort of thing, so you can get used things pretty well there. So if we then move on to the sets and have a look here, we're going to have two sets to look at. The first one is sort of your general Mimikyu set, attacking, and the second one's more of a defensive one, but also attacking. So the first moveset we're going to have Swords Dance to start us off, followed by Play Rough and then Shadow Claw as our two stabs, and then Facade or Shadow Sneak as the last option. Disguise of course is the ability, with Nature being a Jolly or an Adamant one depending on what you're going for. Held item is a red card or a life orb, and the EVs we have maximum attack and maximum speed, with the last four in physical defense. So, of course, Swords Dance here in the moveset is the ideal thing to use with Disguise, because you can Swords Dance, get +2 attack, and then you can go in with a Shadow Sneak or a Play Rough or a Shadow Claw to do a lot of damage on the next turn. So definitely something to think about running there, and definitely think about using it too in battle. Apart from that, Play Rough and Shadow Claw are your two stabs, fairly simple there. And then the choice of Facade or Shadow Sneak is up to you. Facade, as I mentioned, is that insurance policy in case you get burnt, and then Shadow Sneak is there for priority in case, so another option really, in case you want to be relying on Adamant Nature. Probably want to run Shadow Sneak more, because you'll still do decent damage even if you are burned, hopefully, especially with Swords Dance, but you will be slower, hence Shadow Sneak might be more wanted. So the Nature really links in with that last move choice. In terms of the held item, of course, you have Red Card here, which is obviously a different sort of item we don't see too much. Red Card, if you are unaware, I'm sure you're not unaware, but reverse. Red Card means when you get hit by a move, the enemy has to switch out, which is a sort of a weird thing, but the idea is they attack you with Disguise, and then they have to switch out. So if they maybe had set up a Pokemon, or they had, switched someone in that could both take Mimikyu's moves as well as then end up killing it, they will have to attack you the first time. They get red carded out, boom. Then they have to send someone else in who might not be as good against you, and of course then you hopefully set a Swords Dance up, and you can then go on and attack and go further like that. That's the idea there. Or you can just go for Life Orb, just give you power. So Jolly, Life Orb and Facade, probably a good sort of combination there. Or you can go for Adamant, Life Orb and Shadow Sneak, which would again be similar combination there, with just a bit more power basically. EVs are very similar, with the most power and the most speed too, and the last few in physical defense just to boost that up slightly. Apart from that, really, yeah, it's a fairly simple set. You use Disguise to set a Swords Dance up, and then you start attacking. It's fairly simple. Of course, if you're running a Jolly Nature, you'll have more speed behind you to begin with, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Of course, if you're running the Adamant Nature, you might want to think about running Shadow Sneak just for those instances where a Rabombi comes in, for example, and you'll think, oh shit, it's going to be faster. You can go Shadow Sneak, and then you can hopefully, or at least do a chunk of damage, if not take them out. So, the second set we have, in terms of moves, Substitute, Swords Dance, Play Rough, and then Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, or Leech Life. Ability, of course, is Disguise once again. We have the same sort of nature thing, Jolly or Adamant, and the held item this time is Life Orb, Spooky Plate, Pixie Plate, or an Air Balloon, with 3 different choices here. EV-wise, we have maximum attack and speed, and the last few in defense once more. So, of course, this is more defensive, or slightly more defensive. We have, of course, Substitute to see if you can set that up to sort of go along with your Disguise. And then Swords Dance is very similar again, you just want to set that up behind your Disguise if possible. Play Rough is your main attacking move, and of course you can then have follow up with another stab with Shadow Claw, or a priority move with Shadow Sneak, or Leech Life for some help at restoration if you want it. Jolly or Adamant Nature again is up to you really, there's not too much of a huge choice here. But just depends whether you want to, again, linking in with Shadow Sneak. Jolly, probably need Shadow Sneak. Adamant, probably want to run Shadow Sneak, for example, like that. Held item, Life Orb, Spooky Plate and Pixie Plate, again very similar old boosting moves. Life Orb will of course drain your health points, but be more generic in terms of its boosting, whereas Spooky Plate will specifically boost Shadow Claw or Shadow Sneak, and then Pixie Plate will boost Play Rough. So you have to think about how you want to use it, whether you just want to go for power on certain moves, or if you want generic power, but with it in exchange for health point loss. Air Balloon is another option there, which gives you of course immunity to a ground type move for at least one turn, which doesn't sound like an amazing sort of thing to have, but combined with your other 3 immunities can be pretty powerful, because it means you're immune to basically like almost a quarter of the total types in Pokemon, at least for one turn. So it's pretty interesting to see how it goes there. But then, of course, Eevee is the same spread as before, so in terms of how you want to use the set, you sort of want to try and set the sub up if possible, but you can sort of substitute up, and then you can protect from status effects, which is always a pretty nice thing. So burn isn't really an issue here if you've got a sub up, and of course you can then, once you're behind the sub, go for a Sword Stance, go for a Play Rough, Shadow Sneak, whatever else, and just start rolling through once you've got the sub set up. Really, it's I won't say as simple as that, but it's fairly based off of that. So that is going to be it for Mimikyu today. I'm not going to go too much into detail, so we shall wrap it up here. But of course, don't forget to vote for the next episode's Pokemon, either Mimikyu, I don't know how to say the name, who knows, or Bruxish. Let me know down below by commenting either that name or Bruxish, and of course the one with the most votes will be covered in the next episode. But for now, this is going to be it for today, so I shall be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.